And I would like to welcome in our next guest. We have Nick Capozzi. He is the VP Sales at Smile Virtual, and he's going to be teaching us how to use video in the sales process. Nick has used video to sell and market for over 25 years with companies like Disney and Royal Caribbean. He currently teaches sales teams how to sell with video and helps marketers create high converting videos for their funnel. So welcome, Nick. I'm really excited to learn from you today.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. What a great...
It is very exciting. Well, yeah, Nick, I want to hand it over to you. I'd love if you could give a little bit of an intro about yourself before you dive into your topic here, but then you can take it away.
Absolutely. So I have a kind of unique background. I grew up in Canada. I knew two things when I was a kid. One, I couldn't handle winter. Two, I was going to work in radio. So I did work in radio. I was in radio and TV for about 5 years in Toronto. And then one day someone said to me, can you do that radio thing on a stage? Next thing I know, I stepped onto a cruise ship in Miami and actually spent 20 years in the cruise business. We did live stage presentations. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is a combination of using video, but then also all the other pieces that go into, the theater of what we do. And selling, there's theater to selling. Make no mistake about that. So that's a little bit of the background. So, when I start talking to people about video, one of the first things I always bring up is how often do you look at video every day? How many videos do you see? Whether you're scrolling through your Instagram reels or TikTok or, messages from vendors, whatever it is, you look at video all day, right? And what I think is really interesting is that so many companies and so many individuals take the time to actually go out and create video, but there's not necessarily a lot of strategy that goes into the video. They're thinking more about the content than about the video itself. So here's my argument why I think you should be using video in some part of your sales process. First thing is that only 3% of people in sales use video in some part of the sales process. Let that sink in for a second. Did it sink in? Okay, good. So I think that's always a really interesting place to start, that 3% of people are using video. And of those 3%, it's mostly in prospecting. And even then, they're not usually doing a great job. They're trying, but they're not doing a great job. So let's talk real quick about some of the different places that you can use video. One is absolutely, and now I'm talking sales cycle specifically. Obviously, there's a lot more options and opportunities with marketing. But from a sales perspective, the first place that I'm always using video is when I'm prospecting, whether I'm reaching out to someone with a cold email, whether I'm reaching out to someone on LinkedIn, whether someone's brokered a meeting, I'm always going to go and send a video, an introduction video to that person. And people are like, well, Nick, you make it look so easy, and I don't worry, I'll get into all that about how to actually make it look easy. But the biggest obstacle that people need to overcome is just sending that first video, right? There's a ton of great tools out there. You can use Vidyard, you can use Loom, you can use BombBomb. But the key thing is that when I talk to people and they're like, okay, I'm ready, I'm ready to send out my first prospecting video, they'll shoot it like 10, 12, 15 times. And that kind of defeats the purpose. One thing you really want to do with video is make sure that those first couple ones, don't watch them, but send them out. It's a really key point. Second place, and this is a really interesting place that I use video that I've in fact had a lot of success with recently, because it wasn't my idea. I got it actually from Zoe Hartsfield, who's now with Dooley, but at the time she was with BombBomb. And she was talking about how great she was at holding meetings. And what she did was she would just send out, so Sarah, let's say you and I had a meeting coming up. I'd send just a quick video and say, hey, Sarah, how are you? It's Nick from Smile Virtual. Really excited to talk with you. Just want to let you know in advance of the demo we're going to do, if there's any questions you want to ask in advance, just go ahead and let me know. And I can tell you my personal, rate of meetings being held was, or when I came into this company, they were at about 50%. When I started sending those video emails in advance of the meeting, I'm in the mid 80s now. So just such a drastic, dramatic effect for something that takes me 3 minutes in the morning to send out 5 or 6 or 7 15-second videos, just saying hello. And one of the key things there is you always want to put in the subject line something, in brackets, personal video, something that makes the recipient understand that this is unique. Now, some industries have seen this and it's not a novelty anymore, but some industries haven't. So right now, a lot of the people I'm selling to are doctors or dentists, and everyone is telling me, I've never seen this before. So especially if you're in an industry, if you're not selling B2B, if you're selling B2C, or if you're selling, to SMB, the opportunity with video is really huge because a lot of people haven't seen it. So those meeting holds are really high because what I've done now is I've really personalized it, right? They're like, oh, there's that guy, Nick, seems like a nice guy. I'd kind of feel guilty if I skipped the meeting now, or even if I rescheduled, right? There's that hesitation. And then the third place that I love using videos, and this is a way to go viral in someone's office in your sales cycle, is actually sending out a proposal recap. So think about it this way. If I'm sending you a proposal, I'll have it, all laid out as tight as possible. And then what I'll do is I'll do a 45-second video recapping the key points that I want to make sure that your team understands. So quick sidebar, one of the things I always try and do too is whoever I'm working with, if it's a long sales cycle, whoever my champion is on that side, I'm always making sure that I can kind of run the proposal by them. And the advantage of that is now I'm using their words, right? The company's words, how they speak about things. So I'll send these proposal videos just say, hey, it's Nick from Smile Virtual. I just want to send a quick recap of what's in this PDF that I attached with the full proposal. We covered A, B, C, D. And what's interesting, because if you're tracking, which you can, again, with a product like Vidyard, what's really cool is I can actually track how many individual users opened up and played that video. So I had one a couple months ago where I got 40 people inside one office watching the proposal recap. So that's 39 people I never spoke to, 39 stakeholders, influencers. Maybe it was just, oh, look at this. No vendors ever sent us a proposal recap before. So obviously we landed that client, but I think it was just interesting to, get people to think and realize of what's possible and different ways that you can use such a great, medium like video. So next thing we always talk about is your setup, right? Because I'm in a studio right now. I'm actually not in a studio. I'm actually in my guest bedroom here in my house in Phoenix, Arizona. But what's interesting, a couple things, and this is, I've sent out so many videos over the last couple of years. I have a lot of data that kind of supports all the things I'm going to mention now. It's just from my anecdotal from my history, but what gets me higher view rates, longer view rates. And the first thing is to consider is your setup. And let's start with your background. What's behind you, right? So we've gotten so used to, the Zoom world the last year and a half where we show up and we're okay. It's okay to be in pajamas or maybe I got a dress shirt on, but I got pajama pants on. Totally cool. That's you. But I can't tell you when I've been the buyer, how many times this year I've showed up to the Zoom meeting and the person pitching me is in their bedroom, which is okay if that's where you have to work. But like the bed's not made or there's laundry not done, right? So one thing you really need to think about is your background and what are people perceiving, because it's still business, right? And we're often talking, either 6 figures or 7 figures of business. So do I want to see how am I going to perceive you subconsciously if I'm looking at a messy bedroom? So I always try to use a white background, and this is literally just a white painted wall. And I tend to wear dark clothing so that I will stand out, and I make sure there's no patterns in it, right? And I know we're getting real granular now, but think about it this way. If you go to a really nice steakhouse, let's say you go to Morton's or Ruth Chris, how do you get your steak? It's a big white plate. The steak is the star, and then everything else is on the side. And that's the same philosophy here, is that I want the attention on me on what I'm saying, right? I don't want you distracted by a green screen. I don't want you distracted by looking at trying to read the titles on the books behind me. Now, everyone's got different setups, but if you can, a white background's great. If not, always think the human mind is going to be more receptive to lines and levels. So if you do have a bookcase with books, that's a great place to be. But have a look at what's there. And also, what does it say about you, right? Do you have figurines or a piece of art that, might not be conveying the message that you want to convey? So just something to consider. And this seems like so small, but on a white background, I convert 20% higher on my own stuff. So just to give you context on that. Second thing is, this is the second most important thing after your background, is how you light yourself. So again, I'm well lit here. This is just two $35 soft boxes. Just if you go on Amazon, just look up softbox kit. And basically it's just fabric around a box light, and you tilt them about 10 degrees off your webcam. And what that does is now it's really going to light you. And again, now if I'm the recipient of the video and I see this well-lit person kind of standing out in dark clothing on a white background, it's going to pop, right? So the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to say, oh, what's this? I'll click play on this, right? And I'll circle back again. And this is why it's really important to make sure they understand it's a personalized video, because if you have elevated the look, they're going to think you did it in a studio, or, not basically in their guest bedroom. So always making sure they understand it's a personalized video. And I'll go so far sometimes, especially if it's a LinkedIn message, to say something along the lines of, hey, Sarah, it's so nice to meet you. I'm sending you a video. It's not generic. It's a genuine hello from me to you. And the open rate I get on those emails and the views I get on those LinkedIn, that they understand that I took the time to do it, but it looks professional. So it really gets them interested and engaged to pay attention to what you're saying. Next thing is going to be sound. And you know what? You want to make sure your sound is good and not echoey. But believe it or not, the lighting in the background is going to be more important, because what you really want them to do is click play. Then you want them to keep watching, but it's that initial click play that you want to make sure happens. So sound's key. You know what? Most laptops, frankly, have a pretty good mic. But you can spend $30, $40, get a great mic off Amazon. Personally, I enjoy the Yeti series. They're about $130, $150. That'll elevate your sound, but your internal microphone is usually good enough. And I mentioned green screens earlier. That's one thing that people ask me about all the time is, Nick, should I use a green screen? So it goes back to what I said earlier, of that you don't want anything distracted from the message. You want everything laser focused on what you're saying. So if I'm demonstrating something and I really have to use a green screen for emphasis, I will, but I use a green screen about 1 out of every 100 videos I do. I mean, it really has to be intentional with a purpose and a reason behind it. In terms of recording tools, so I mentioned earlier that, I love a lot of these softwares that are out there. So Vidyard is free, BombBomb's free. You can pay for a slightly elevated version, which is maybe 10 or 20 bucks a month, and that'll give you more options. But these recording tools are fantastic, because a lot of them have these Chrome extensions, and I can be emailing you, and I just click the little button and literally my webcam will pop up, and that's going to allow me to record that video right there and then. So that's kind of the basics of actually going out and doing it. So then let's get to the next level of how do you actually make it engaging, right? Because it's great that I got them to click play, but now I need them to stay for that 45 seconds. And by the way, 45 seconds is what you want to be aiming for all the time. I was talking to someone recently and they said, you know what, Nick, I'm a CRO and I get, videos a lot, but I dismiss them because they're all 3 minutes long. And you know what? He's right, because if it is 3 minutes long, no one's going to watch it. But another thing I'll put in there is how long the video is. Hey, Sarah, if you can spare 42 seconds, I just wanted to relay this to you. So back to engagement, one of the key things, and this was the first day of radio school at Humber College in Toronto, like 25 years ago, I feel old now, that they taught you, was that if you want to sound like you have 100% energy across the airwaves, you actually have to put 150% energy into the microphone. So a lot of what I've done the last year is about video, but a lot of it is sitting on people's demos, because it's all very similar, right? It's the same kind of skill sets. And I would tell people all the time, what you want to do is really make sure you control that meeting, right? And it's the same thing if you're recording a 45-second video. And what I mean by that is that it's opening up, it's the stage is open, you're stepping out on it, you've got them to click, you've put the time into your background. Now I keep them engaged because the first thing I do is I smile. So this is such a small thing, but this changes everything. If you click that video and I'm smiling, it's going to change the entire dynamic of the next 45 seconds. And then from there, I'm going to talk with energy, again, aiming for that 150%, which at first is going to seem unnatural. But if you watch yourself and you think, that's too much energy, you're actually at the right point. It's when you start scaling back that you're going to start to dilute it. It's not going to have the same effect. So smiling, putting energy into it. And what's interesting now, I'm putting energy into this conversation, but it's not over the top. It's not like this, right? But it's still trying to maintain that engagement throughout. I hope you guys are engaged, or else I'm in trouble here.
Definitely, definitely. I totally hear what you're saying. It's so true that it's something that we chatted about when we were first doing our video series, the Outbound Lab series, and it was Colin and Lavinia who were doing the speaking in the video. And like yourself, Nick, I have the theatrical performance background, and I remember trying to think of like, okay, how do I put it into a term that people can understand, that basically you need to say everything as if it's like genuinely the most interesting thing that you could share, and that's not over the top. Like, if you are saying, of course, as you mentioned, you can't be like, wow, this is what we're talking about, but if it's a genuine, like, this is important and I'm excited about it, it comes across as you are genuinely that, and it's not too much.
Well, and I think that's one of the base things about selling in general. And I don't want to get off topic, but you nailed a really important point there, Sarah, is that you have to be passionate about what you're selling. You have to have some level of excitement. And whatever it is that draws you to what you're selling, whether it's your own product, whether you're a solopreneur, it's your own business, whether you're working for a great company like you are, Sarah, what excites you about it, right? Like helping, for me, it was always about helping clients win. So I'm going to be excited because I have a really good solution, because I know I can move your business ahead. I know I can improve how you sell. There's no question about that. So I'm excited about it because I'd love to work with you because I know I can get you there, right? So keeping that in mind as well. So back to the creating engagement, and it's really key that you want to maintain that energy and that smiling through the 45 seconds. Now, this applies to any other kind of video. And I think what's important is that, Nick, if I'm smiling for 45 seconds straight, I kind of feel like I'm doing this the whole time. And I appreciate that. But I think the key thing is that if you're kind of smiling with your eyes, even when you're not smiling, and just having that jovial personality. And the thing is, it's a mindset thing, but it's really quick. It's 45 seconds. So if you haven't shot videos before and you're going to shoot, 5, 10 in a row, which is also what I recommend to people, is when you're going to start doing this, do them all at once at the beginning. And the reason is that there's a couple, but the first one is that how do you have yourself up? So if I'm going to shoot some videos, what I want to do is I'll listen to some music that's going to get me amped up just for 2 minutes before I do. So I'm in that right mindset. I'm kind of excited. I'm feeling good. Lights go on, camera goes on. Hey, Sarah, how are you? It's Nick from Smile Virtual. I just wanted to let you know about this. So, just how are you setting that up? And then one of the most critical things, and this I really learned from, I have a lot more than 10,000 hours on stage on these cruise ships live presenting to people. And one of the things I realized with all these hours of reading hundreds of people's body language is how important tempo, pace, and pausing is. And this is a really unique technique that is not just relevant to video, but if you're doing any kind of demo or any kind of conversation, if you want to keep people's attention longer, you really want to think about how you're using tempo, pace, and pausing. And I'll give you an example about that. So if I have a lot of information to get through, and I'm going to cover a lot of things, I'm going to talk kind of a little bit fast, but just because, Sarah, I want to make sure you get everything. So I'm talking a little bit quick, but the problem with this is that everything sounds the same. It's all monotone. It's all at the same level. Nothing changes. You're not paying attention. But if you play with the pace, and it's important to think that, okay, so I do have a lot to cover. So I'm going to make sure, Sarah, we cover it all. However, I really want to take a second and point out this. And adjusting your pace as you go through is really going to be key in terms of, again, maintaining that engagement. And I keep talking about maintaining an engagement. I want to get every ounce I can out of that 45 seconds. I don't want you to press pause or close the browser. I want to earn every second of those 45 seconds. And again, smiling, keeping that energy, and then tempo, pace, and pausing is really key. And to that point, pausing might be one of the most important things here, because even though hopefully you're engaged right now, Sarah, the reality is if I'm coming to a big reveal, I'm coming to that really big point, that's the whole thing boiled down to this, right? So you're elevating in their mind what's about to happen to pull them. So maybe they got a second screen going. Now, wait a minute, he's pausing. And I always tell people, don't be afraid to pause for 2 seconds. The first time you do it, it feels like forever. But if you pause for 2 seconds, it's really not that long, right? But that's all it takes psychologically to affect something in the person who's watching and kind of pull them back into where you want them to be. So really playing with that. And I'll kind of recap this section of the conversation. And also, sorry, I'm happy to take questions at any point if there are any. But one of the things that I think a lot of people miss the opportunity with is they don't want to watch their own videos. So that's why I tell people at the beginning, just send it. Those first couple of videos, just send it. But then once you're in a rhythm of putting videos out, however you're using them, the key thing you want to do is make sure you rewatch them. And the reason is that I can sit here and coach you through a 45-second video, but the reality is that if you want to get better really fast, and I'm talking quickly, like change how you present in a week, shoot 20 videos and rewatch 20 videos. And you'll start self-correcting. You'll start seeing, I got a crutch word there, or you know what? My energy was flat. Why was my energy flat in this video? And it's just that little nuance of the rewatching and the self-coaching and the better understanding what you're saying and how you're saying it. And it's tough. The first 10 times you're going to hate it. You'd be like, I don't like this guy, Nick. I don't like him at all. But once you do it, Sarah, I'm telling you, it will work and it will make you such a better presenter and quickly. Like it's something you can action on immediately. Okay, I'm going to shoot the videos. I'm going to action on it immediately. Well, Nick, I can't action on it immediately because now I got to go buy soft boxes and I need a better webcam. No, just to light yourself well, get in front of, your kitchen window or just some natural lighting, light yourself, do it on your cell phone, but just do that rhythm, that practice, and it happens so quick. So far, so good, Sarah?
So far, so good. We do have a quick question that's just popped in from Robin Pinot asking, where is the best place to look while recording?
Great question. So what's interesting now is I'm engaged with Sarah. So I'm looking at Sarah here, but when I'm actually recording, I want to make sure that I'm actually looking physically into the lens of the camera. And there's a couple ways you can do that. So one of the things that I'm always letting people know is to be authentic, you want to talk from a place of knowledge. So let's use that as an example. Let's say we're working on a 45-second video. You want to script it out the first time to make sure you're saying really the right words. And I'll get into scripting in just a second, but you want to know it. You want to have it memorized. It's 45 seconds, right? I mean, your prospecting videos are going to be pretty much the same. Memorize that 45 seconds, but like, your national anthem, up, down, left, right, it, right? And what happens then is your 45-second script, but you just write it out into 4 bullet points. So I want to make sure I cover this, this, and this. And when you do it that way, Robin, you can stare at the camera. You just have a little sticky pad or a sticky note right next to it with those 4 bullet points so I can focus on my lens, right? And I make sure I hit those points. And the beautiful thing about kind of deconstructing it that way and not following a script is that you're going to sound way more authentic and it's going to sound a lot more conversational. Hope that answers the question.
Absolutely.
Oh, real quick too, you can always use a teleprompter. So there's great teleprompters out there that are like, $50, $100. There's actually a ton of them now that will come right on your cell phone, and they'll position it so that the text is literally coming underneath where you're viewing. So again, it looks like you're completely engaged and following the pace of the conversation. So, okay, let's talk about scripting since we're kind of on that track right now. One of the things I always try to make sure of is when I'm writing, I always write it to be spoken, not read. And when we're usually writing copy, whether it's an email, whether it's copy for marketing, go and look at it. There's words in there that you would never speak, but it's words you're used to reading. Okay, so Nick, how do I start that? Just talk. So, one of the best ways, and I don't want to sidebar into developing content, but I will just for a second in that. One thing that's a great way, and people are like, Nick, how do I create content? Well, Sarah, there's something you're passionate about. Maybe it's food, maybe it's cars, maybe it's whatever. And if I said, Sarah, talk to me for 30 minutes about food, and you could, no problem, because it's something you're passionate about. So I always say, open up a Word document, click dictate, and just talk about what you know. And the reason I say food, it doesn't have to be, it's really more, the exercise is to be about business. But the point is I can talk about using video all day. So if I open up a Word document, click dictate, and talk for half an hour, basically this time right now, had I clicked dictate, I'd have about 8 pages, single space copy. And there's usually about 30 to 40 thoughts in there. And each one becomes an individual talking point, right? Each one becomes an individual 45-second post, let's say. But the same thing applies for when you're scripting. So if I'm going to really work on a 45-second prospect introduction video, I want to talk it out either with a colleague or with a partner or whatever it is, but really have that speak it out. How would you speak it? Make sure it's dictating into a Word document or notes if you're a Mac user. And you're going to start to see something develop that's going to be a spoken text as opposed to a read text. And then when you deliver that in video, again, it's going to seem way more conversational. So far, so good?
Yeah, interesting. Really, that's a great technique, a great strategy. It's so true that if you read out copy, it's not the way people speak to each other. And in
Right.
reality, you should put in a little bit of the like conversational nuance, like, a couple, whether it's slang terms or just like a slightly less formal or whatever that looks like. It's not something that you could send in an email, but how you converse with somebody else is completely different.
And all these little things, from the lighting to the background to the, writing it to be read or spoken, pardon me. It's all these little things that add 2%, 4%, 3%, all these little things that just tilt it in your favor, that they're going to click play. And here's the beautiful thing, Sarah. I talked about the different places you can use this in a sales cycle. What's really exciting is that when you get them the first time and they watch your video and it does all these things that we've just talked about over 45 seconds, they're going to watch your second video. Right now, you're developing a believer on their side, right? Which helps, especially if you're in a long sales cycle, that helps develop a champion on that side, right? Speaking of which, the champion. So one of the things that I always make sure that I do as salespeople, whether it's an email or video or however we're communicating, there's lots of eyes. I can solve your problem, Sarah. I have a solution. We can do this for your company. So one of the things when I'm scripting and I'm putting my videos, I always make sure that I'm really trying to make sure that my prospect or whoever I'm trying to communicate with is the hero of the story. And this is a whole other conversation, but let's use the hook story offer methodology for a 45-second video and making them the hero. So I want to hook you, Sarah, with something really interesting right off the bat. And then I want to tell it as a story. How do I make this an interesting story that's compelling, right? With great tempo, pace, and pausing. And then what's my call to action? And everything I do when it comes to selling, I'm always trying to hook, story, and offer. So when I do that in a 45-second video and I'm making my client or the prospect the hero of the story, I'm asking them, have you run into this kind of problem? Have you, what are you stumbling with right now? What do you need help with? Then I'll tie it into a story of how I helped someone in a similar field. Well, it's interesting, Sarah, because I actually have a client right now who's kind of in the same space, and then take them through that journey of where the client was before they met you, what they had tried before, and where they got to after working with you, right? And I think, any video I do or any sales conversation, I'm always trying to implement the hook, story, offer. But I think it's really relevant, especially when it comes to making your prospect the hero. So really position it as, hey, Sarah, what's your pain point? Or hey, Sarah, why now? Why right now? Okay, because you want to make more revenue and drive more. Okay, but why right now, Sarah? Why for Sarah is it right now that you and I are having this conversation? And I'm always trying to point the light back to the prospect, but it's especially compelling when it comes to video, because then it's like I'm literally talking to them. So now think about it this way. Now I'm a prospect. I get this video, this well-lit video that's well scripted, sounds like a conversation. The person knows what they're talking about. They hook me with something interesting. They're telling me a great story that totally relates to me. It's really hard to not go to the next level, right? It's really hard to not book a meeting with that person then. And that's one of the key things, I think, is that I think in sales in general, an opportunity that's missed is really about storytelling. And, when I was in the cruise ships, One of the things I found really interesting was it was like the most B2C experience that ever, right? Because we were actually selling all the duty free. So you're thinking liquor, tobacco, but it was really Swiss watches and jewelry. That was the big revenue drivers for us. And I had to get someone, who's on a cruise ship, who's upstairs on the top deck on the first sea day because it's sunny out and they're coming from, upstate New York, to come to the dark theater and listen to me pitch like 60 products in 60 minutes. So telling stories really made it compelling. And then when I got into the B2B space, I said, where's all the storytelling? I mean, everyone that did this in the cruise business, we're all storytellers. Where's the storytelling? And they're like, we kind of do that, but we're not focused on it. And I'm like, well, I think there's opportunities, especially in video, right, to think of it as a more to B2C experience, right? Because we're still selling to humans, and right, and I think that's often forgotten. Even if we're selling B2B, we think, well, the person who's going to buy this on the other end, or I'm trying to sell to on the other end, it's work. Well, it's not. It's about Sarah. Sarah, you and I had a quick conversation last week, and the first thing I brought up to you was, hey, are you from Vancouver? Because I looked at your LinkedIn profile, right? So I'm like, oh, you're Vancouver, a little bit about your history, changes the dynamic of the conversation. And I think that if especially in your videos, position yourself as if you were making a B2C sale. I want to talk to Sarah here. So that's kind of I can go on for 10, 15 hours of this, but those are kind of the main, if I'm going to cram everything into 30 minutes, let me just recap those things real quick. First thing is, why are we sending video and how? And again, like 3% of salespeople use video. 3. Think about that. Do I want an email? I get so many email. I disregard all my email. You got to blow my mind with the subject line. But if it says personal video in brackets, more than likely I'm going to give it a click, right? At least give them that opportunity. Use it to hold your meetings. This one, as someone who's used video all his life, I've only been using this one for about a month, and it was mind blowing the amount of people that were showing up for meetings, which was, again, we had about half show up before, and now we're getting in the mid 80s. I mean, think of all the effort I went to get a meeting with you, Sarah, all that effort. And now I'm going to dramatically increase the chances of you showing up by doing a 15-second video. Done. I'm in. And then also proposals, right? That's the opportunity for you to go viral inside a company, right? Get all these stakeholders, especially when you're at that point of the proposal, to really get buy-in. Because I guarantee you, there's no other vendor. There's no other vendor sending in a proposal video, taking you through those points. So those are really key points. And then from a production standpoint, think about your background, right? What's behind you? How are you lit? Think about your tempo, your pacing, your pausing, think about your scripting. But if you do all those things, you're going to be so effective and so ahead of the 3% of salespeople that are actually using this. But you're so many times ahead of the people who aren't, right? And then the last thing, Sarah, and I mentioned this already, and the key thing is, this is it. My kids ask me all the time, Nick, how do you get better? Or Dad, how do you get better at something? You get better by practicing. Well, practice doesn't sound good when you're 11 or when you're 12 or 15, but the reality is that, if you want to shoot better, you just shoot basketball better, just go out and take 100 shots a day. You're going to get better. You'll start to see change quickly. Like, it happens quick. A kid can't identify that time period because they don't have the same life experience. But as an adult, if you're going to tell me that I can get really good at using video by just taking, the first 20 that I do and rewatching them, just get over yourself. You got to get over yourself, but do it because it works. It's fantastic. It's very effective. So I hope, Sarah, that there was some value in that. If there's any more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, guys, we'd love to hear your questions. Please pop them in the chat. Any questions that you have for Nick, and I have a couple. And so I'm going to start since it's my live stream and I said so. So my first question is, why are only 3% of salespeople using video? Why has it not been more widely adopted?
Because I think when you think of Zoom and how we have to show up for these meetings, well, everyone does video now, is kind of that blanket thought that we're going to have. And then the other thing is that, look, it's like people think, well, okay, how long does it take me to send out an email? If there's any customization, right? If you're not using some sort of automation, if there's customization, how long does it take to send out an email? 45 seconds. But if I send out 100 emails, it's going to take me maybe 30 or 40% longer to send out that same amount of custom videos, but my rate of opens and plays and meetings booked is it's in the stratosphere. The thing is, everyone gives up, Sarah, because they don't rewatch their video, find it to be not effective, or it's just easier. I don't care if someone to send it as an email as opposed to caring a little bit and putting a little bit of time to make it a video.
Right. Absolutely.
No
Makes
judgment.
sense.
That sounded judgy, but
Come on. No, definitely. Yeah. All really great points. And yeah, like you said, you got to just get over yourself and give it a go. And when you see that the results are so much higher than sending, this generic automated email, it'll really inspire you to do it again. We've got a question from Siobhan, who is
yes.
wondering, okay, so when you're using this video in your cold prospecting, you're using it to try to book a meeting. How do you go to convert to the meeting? Like how are you actually booking the meeting in that email? Are you using the video for that? Are you putting something in the text?
100%. So this is the exact way that I construct an email. So it's personal video about whatever the subject is. Then I'll put, hi, Sarah. That's it. That's the extent of my text. So you need to click play, right, to find out what this conversation is even about. Then there's the video of me. And one thing real quick too, always make sure you have a good thumbnail. And, if you're using Loom or Vidyard, you can just have one really good screenshot that's maybe you doing this, right? Or whatever it is, but something to get them to click play. People historically have used like a whiteboard with someone's name. That's kind of been done. There's a great app called Make It Big. And what that does is, like, literally, I'll just put my phone up and it'll say, hi, Sarah, right? So that it's authentic. So you can either do a customized thumbnail or just something that's an engaging picture of you. So they'll click play. Sorry, I sidebarred there. So again, construct is, hi, Sarah, the video of me. And then right below is my calendar link. And I'll always end the video by saying, and I'd love to, chat with you. If you have a couple minutes, my link's right here. And that's it. Easy peasy.
Nice. There you go, Siobhan. And Tomas is asking, is it more effective to go full personalization or send out kind of scaled industry-based or persona-based personalized videos so that you can reuse videos?
Here's the only time I would scale. And I've done this and it's very effective. I'll go through a great tool like, let's say, Sales Navigator, if I'm using LinkedIn, and I'll pull out, if I'm looking at, let's say, dentists in the United States, I'll pull out all the dentist name Mike, and you can literally do that. So it's still customized. I'm just sending out the last batch I did like that. There was like 178 mics.
That is so good.
Hey, Mike, how are you? So that's the only way I would scale it. The personalization is so effective. And this is a whole other conversation, but I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn. And one of the things I do every single time before I get on a call with someone, I'll take 90 seconds and look for Easter eggs in their LinkedIn profiles. So just if I was sending you a cold video, Sarah, I'd say, hey, you're from Vancouver. Oh, so cool. I grew up in Montreal and Toronto. Have some Tim Hortons for me. I just, that level of personalization changes every other conversation you and I are gonna have going forward. So if you can, it is, Tomas, it is totally worth doing the personalization. When I do demos, so I demo to dentists, I'll actually go and get a screen cap of their website, and then I'll put a file that shows the picture of the little widget that we install on their website, so that when we get to that point in the demo, they're like, oh my gosh, wow.
That's
but I see that reaction, right? And what am I doing? I'm painting that picture. It's the same thing. So that level of personalization, Tomas, whenever it's possible, it is worth the effort because it'll come back to you in spades.
Nice. A question from Bo. Do you send the initial meeting invite and then follow up with the video, or are you sending the video right off the bat?
So what happens is, okay, so I'll tell you exactly how I'll get granular here. So the way that I work this is when the meeting gets booked, typically it's about a week out, usually. And then what I'll do is every day, it's literally 3 minutes. Today is Thursday. This is not a great example. Let's say it was Wednesday. Okay, Friday, I'm talking to these 4 people. So on Wednesday, 2 days in advance, They booked a week ago, but 2 days in advance. Hey, Sarah, I just want to say I'm really excited. And a great thing to say is if you have any questions in advance or make sure I cover anything in particular, you can go ahead and just, reply in this email. And when I started doing this, I was getting like novellas, like these paragraph after this is great. I'd love to make sure we cover this and cover this. Well, oh my gosh, forget like going into 15 minutes of discovery to give a great demo. They just gave me half their discovery, right? So what that allows me to do is then just confirm those things and make sure there's nothing else we want to talk about. So again, recap, if they're booking a week out, 2 days in advance is where I send that video. So all my videos for Monday, I'll actually tomorrow morning on Friday, I'll send out a quick video to make sure that those are covered. I hope that answers it for you.
Yeah, I think so. Bo, let us know if there's any follow-up questions there. And yeah, thank you so much for all of your questions, guys. I love when you guys are so engaged and bring those questions for us. I think that might be it for this moment. And so, Nick, I will say thank you so much for joining us on this year's Own Your Growth. It was an absolute pleasure to learn from you. As you mentioned, only 3% of people are doing this right now. So it's really a kind of untapped power that is out there in terms of prospecting strategies or just general sales strategies go. So grateful to you for joining us today to teach us about it.
It's a pleasure. And if anyone wants to connect from this, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Just mention it's from this and I'll absolutely accept.
Yeah, absolutely. And any other questions you guys have, if you didn't get a chance to answer them now, you can go over to that Slack community and you can pose your questions in there. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you so much again, Nick.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone.